I've been collecting vintage since quite a long time, and I usually don't specialize in a particular design or particular era or country, just because I love mix and matching things. For example, this is a 1951 Marco Zanuso armchair that became an iconic piece for the 1950s and Italian design in general, called the Lady Armchair. And this has an original upholstery. Then, for example, you have this cabinet that is an English wardrobe from the beginning of the century. And I love these in particular because it's full of details. So it was beautifully restored, and I think that it's an item that really brings you back to a certain era. This is a table that I felt in love with and I couldn't wait to bring to Hong Kong. And what I love about it is the thickness of the marble top and the legs, which I find absolutely stunning and really very sexy. So I think that it's got the right mix of materials, shape, and it's a kind of piece that really can fit in any type of interior. Here we are entering the more open space part of the showroom, and this is the beautiful set of sofa and armchairs that I recently brought back. They were in terrible conditions when I saw them, but what I love about them is the shape that I think is stunning, and the way the legs are. So what I did, I kept the same very similar colors, a fabric that was similar feel to the original one, but I did completely the reupholstery and the inside of the sofa. I think that the result is stunning, but it's still very sympathetic to the way the original items were. When you buy something that is vintage, it's important for me it's important to buy items that have a story behind it. They have to be items that tells you something that brings you emotions, that maybe bring you back to the times in which they were produced. Keeping things from the past that have a historical relevance, that have still that sort of style that is beautiful these days. It's a great way of preserving our history, but also trying to avoid producing furniture that you probably keep for 2 or 3 years and then chuck away. There are so many things that can be considered vintage, to tell you the truth, that I think that is a bit hard to give very strong guidelines. There's a big difference between vintage and design with a capital D. Vintage is anything that goes from the beginning of the centuries to even up to the 80s. Design with the capital D are items that come from a renowned designer. When it comes to items that have got a higher price point, that are considered design and not vintage, definitely is more important to do more research to actually understand who's the designer, when was it produced, and when, for example, it comes to price, it's important in terms of design to have a general feel about what are the auction prices of those items. Reproductions is a huge mistake. It sounds silly, but sometimes people think of something as vintage when it's not vintage at all. And in a way it's the biggest mistake, but also the easiest to avoid, because things like patina, the sign of time is something that is very hard to reproduce. So you can definitely recognize if something is a real vintage or not.